This season is progressing quite fast, isn't it? So, we're already in the 3rd episode, and I think that I have an interesting spread of games for you today. Well, it's probably best that you go ahead and see for yourself. Ravage is a pretty fun sharer sci-fi vertically scrolling shooter. If you played Raptor or Tyrion, you'll feel right at home playing Ravage. Story-wise, cause naturally the devs decided that one was needed, you're not gonna believe it, but you're engaged to the most beautiful girl out there. Yep, not the 2nd or 3rd, the most beautiful one. On the other hand, you're you, so a hero, a savior, a superstar too, all rolled into one, so who else would get the best girl? Anyway, your wedding, cause things were moving quite fast, was supposed to take place in a month, but as usual in situations like this, when something's supposed to go well, something else happens and things take another entirely different path. So, horned evil master of the darkness is going by the name of Toran, kidnapped your beloved, and you've no choice than to jump in your jet, track him down and save her. Usually I would have said not necessarily in that order, but in this particular case the order has to stand for it all to make sense. Now, all of it wouldn't be that odd really if you were fighting demon/hell enemies, since he's a master of darkness after all. But all the way through the game, you're facing nothing more than the regular ships of various kinds, ground installation, trains and the likes. There's nothing demonic about them. So, the aforementioned unnecessary story is additionally also unfitting one, at least as compared to the gameplay loop. Whatever. As you go through the game spreading death and destruction everywhere, as one does, you are rewarded credits at an end level, based on your performance throughout it. And you can spend them later on to either purchase new weapons, upgrade the ones that you have already, or buy extra lives. What is best about Ravage, however, is that it's actually, despite being a shareware release, a very competent and fun game. I mean, sure, Tyrion or Raptor it is not, but it's so close. I mean, you can easily replay it a few times in a row and still have fun. It's that good. Better yet, grab a friend and play it in co-op, it's even better that way. Despite not being unique in any of its parts, Ravage is fun and definitely worth more attention than it ever received. Reach for the Stars Conquest of the Galaxy is one of the earliest examples of 4X games. What is 4X, you may wonder? Well, it's one of the two. Either extra extreme exciting experience, or explore, expand, exploit and exterminate. Both sound as plausible to me. Anyway, what is Reach for the Stars? It's a huge sci-fi themed and space-based strategy game that will see you discovering and exploring unknown galaxies, colonizing planets, meeting alien civilizations, expanding your spaceship fleet, and engaging in conflicts when necessary. Or when you feel like it, cause wars weren't always born out of necessity, sometimes it's out of will, greed, prejudice, hate, or because of a misunderstanding/mistake. Often, combination of few of these. Each planet that you colonize can be set up differently, allocating your available resources between defense, research, development, environmental and social factors, industry and even happiness of your citizens. There's a lot to micromanage on them is what I'm saying. Like, surprisingly a lot for when the game came out. In fact, the variety of options in micro and macro management is an overarching theme of the game, and its strongest suit really. Well, next to flexibility only. In fact, flexibility is not the best word for it, freedom of choice is better and more suiting, I think. Because you can play Reach for the Stars any way you want. There's always 4 players in each game, be it human or CPU controlled, and you're not limited to playing it one way only. You can play militarily, funny enough even this in few different ways, or you can focus on exploration and expansion, or even on setting up colonies and building them up before moving to the new ones. So taller rather than wider, so to speak. And all that is still just scratching the surface. DOS version of the game is near complete rewrite of the C64 original, upgrading graphics considerably, changing the interface into a menu-based one, and adding a lot of content, like ground-based armies, new planetary mechanics, new technology trees for navigation and industry, and progressive social maintenance costs. It's the ultimate version of the game, as good if not better than the Amiga outing. Doom, or actually I should say Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake. Cool games, right? id Software definitely knew how to pull an amazing shooter, a groundbreaking one. And not once, but thrice. Some would argue that more than that, because we had Quake 2 and Quake 3 Arena and even Quake 4, all great and important in their own ways. Seriously, just think what an amazing run they had with these. But before them there was a little game called Rescue Rover. Well, Rescue Rover 2 too, but we'll get into that one in a few minutes. Rescue Rover is as far from first-person shooters as games can get. It's a puzzler. Yep, so instead of pew-pewing at aliens, you're shooting puzzling problems at your brain cells. So why oh why id Software would develop such a game? Well, believe it or not, but they had some kind of a contractual obligations to the earlier publisher Softdisk and didn't want to give them their best games. The shower version of Rescue Rover came with 10 levels, and purchase unlocked additional 20. Each level starts at the ladder with you playing as Roger, having to find it and bring Rover back with you to said ladder. To unlock the path to the exit for Rover, you'll need to move objects scattered around the game board, and these objects are all different, have unique, often required in puzzling characteristics, and not only need to be moved in a way that would allow passage, but also to solve any and all potential puzzles along the way. So for instance, crates float in water, mirror blocks reflect laser light, star pearls are, well, pearls, and that's just a few of them. Additionally, there are glowing floors you can't walk on, laser projectors, teleporters, and locked-off doors that require access cards to be passable. And while that's already a lot, it's still not all, because there are also enemy robots. And there's 4 kinds of these, each behaving differently. So some of them don't move but always shoot at our heroes when they see them. There are those that chase Roger if given a chance and either run into him, killing him in the process, or shoot him. So, to secure a usable passage, you have to either trap or destroy them. It's not as simple as it initially seemed now, is it? And if I'm to be honest, despite being a game id Software had to make, and not one of their most popular titles, Rescue Rover is actually really fun and playable. If you like puzzle games, that is. Residence 44 Quest is a graphical adventure based on AGI Studios' engine, allowing for creation of text parser adventures similar to early Sierra's games. I've not played it and only ever researched it for this video, so keep that in mind. It was made by the 2 students at the Technical University Delft in the Netherlands and is based on some of their own uni life experiences. So, it's kinda funny, but not overly so. There are a few raunchy scenes, nothing too graphic though, and generally speaking, Residence 44 is pretty well put together title for a small independent release. That said, 1999 when it dropped is not a year parser games should see the light of day. The genre basically died off years before and it should have stayed that way. Buried deep in memories of gamers never to resurface again. And resurrecting its rotten and annoying corpse was not something that was necessary. Point and clicking was the way to go. At least I think so. Anyway, the game starts with you being a freshman in college and moving into an apartment building, the titular Residence 44. The plot is incredibly linear and simple, but not bad, not what I mean at all, at least for as much as I could learn about it. And you'll need to meet everyone living in the building and perform different requested tasks from them to proceed. First, funny enough, being getting rid of quote-unquote slut, not my phrasing, that's causing everyone else grief. The puzzles are not overly difficult, even if not all rooted in logic, but the solution to some may require a little trial and error. Cause the game originally released in Dutch and then, later on, was translated into English, apparently simplifying gameplay a lot, dropping many of the interactions and conversations from the original. I can't confirm or deny it, cause I don't speak Dutch and haven't played the game, but what's left is plenty enough anyway. Most characters that you'll meet will have a lot to say and contribute to the story, regardless if it will be useful in any of the puzzles or not. I like independent games, which should come as no surprise as I've recently started dropping occasional reviews for this on this channel, and Residence 44 is an early example. Early for an indie, late for a parser game. I don't know man, I feel like it's too odd of a mixture of old and new to appeal to a larger crowd. Also, it's probably the reason for its obscurity if I'm to be honest. Rescue Rover 2, a follow-up to the first game that we spoke about a couple of minutes ago, and another of id Software's contractually obligated releases, features basically identical gameplay loop as the first title. So, you play as Roger once more, and have to save your dog Rover again in each and every level. The game naturally consists of completely new stages, new deadly robots, and gameplay features, keeping previous titles' formula as addictive as it was, but enhancing the graphics a little too. And the difference is rather superficial, but it also kinda makes sense as both games released the very same year. So, they didn't have that much time to work on it, especially if they were already working on their FPS classics. One has to wonder if perhaps both Rescue Rovers weren't originally planned to be one game and were split just to fulfill the contract. Naturally, I have no proof of anything, and my doubts are rooted in my cynicism only. I may be way off mark here. Still, Rescue Rover 2 is a fun puzzler, so if you like those, it's definitely worth a look. Roboo is a Polish action puzzler that was originally released on 8-bit Atari computers and then ported to other systems, those in particular in 1993. The port is composed out of 60 levels and features gameplay similar to a mixture of Boulder Dash and Sokoban. Story-wise, our protagonist Roboo is stranded in space and his spaceship is broken. How terrible. So he must land on different local planets divided into a few local star systems in order to find and collect screws needed to repair his ship. Naturally, it's not a straightforward go from A to B fare, and you'll have to puzzle your way through devilishly convoluted maze-like levels to complete the game. How does it play though? Imagine Boulder Dash but without gravity and with Sokoban-like block pushing. So, you have to move the objects in the correct way to create a path for yourself to collect a set number of screws and then complete the level by getting to the exit. Naturally, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and these planets are not friendly at all. So, our electronic hero has to prepare to be met with deadly obstacles, aggressive creatures, laser turrets and magnets among others. Naturally, these planets are not Roboo's first space rodeo, and he's not a hopeless and defenseless little bot. He can find bullets that can be used to shoot the enemies. Well, truth be told, they're not really bullets, but batteries powering up Robot's laser for 9 shots each, but you get what I'm getting here at. And there are also bombs that explode upon being shot. And while these two don't seem like a lot, trust me, it's more than enough. I mean, there are also pushable crates, doors and corresponding to them keys, mirrors and teleports, all to add to the puzzling fun. Roboo is an interesting title, as while it was incredibly popular on the Atari systems, at least in Poland, hardly anyone knew of a DOS version, which is a pity as it's a really well thought out and genuinely rewarding to experience game. When Roboo released, the developer promised first 5 players to complete the game their next title for free. All they had to do is send them detailed description of an end sequence in mail. Yes, the one without E at the beginning of it. It is said that by 1991, devs received a good few thousand of answers. Imagine that. Sandwarriors takes place on the planet Taui, where 2 large houses of Set and Horus are at each other's throats, bound in a never-ending war for the throne and rule of the planet. Interestingly enough, why a completely foreign planet follows our Egyptian beliefs is beyond my scope of understanding. But I'm a simple man and there's a lot I don't get in life. Like wars, violence and prejudice. In Sandwarriors, you take a role of a low-ranking young pilot of a House of Horus fighting against the opposing faction in series of 24 action-packed missions. There are a few kinds of these, from reconnaissance through salvage to stopping enemy forces, and they all are well thought out and pretty fun to pew your way around them. Cause for the most part, Sandwarriors plays like a bit enhanced / modified terminal velocity. Campaign plays out during both day or at night, and as you progress through it, you will also advance in ranks, which in turn will allow you to access new and much more powerful weapons, ranging from chain guns to nuclear devices. If you ever find yourself on the verge of running out of ammo, you'll need to locate weapon stores and raid them. Your shield, cause your ship has one, recharges itself automatically if it's not receiving any damage for a while. Flares are a nice touch too, allowing you to mitigate damage by redirecting enemy missiles in those hot and tight situations you'll no doubt find yourself in, and make this otherwise arcade shooter feel a tiny itty bit like a simulation. Which, let's be clear here, Sandwarriors is most definitely not. Presentation-wise, at the time of its release, Sandwarriors' SVGA graphics were exceptional, though it has to be said that the landscapes, because of their sand-based looks, felt rather empty and devoid of interesting scenery objects or any real landmarks. It's largely irrelevant though, as the focus in it should be based on fast-paced action anyway, of which there's plenty enough of. Sandwarriors may not be the most innovative 3D shooter out there, but it's a really solid and fun romp, and all fans of games like Terminal Velocity or Fury 3 will definitely enjoy it. Rebel Moon, the game, not a tad disappointing Netflix movie, is a book example of the obscure. It's a first-person shooter that upon its release was only available and compatible with Creative Labs 3D Blaster 3D Accelerator cards. What a tongue twister. Well, with all cards sporting Rendition Verity 1000 chipset to be precise, but there weren't that many others really. So, is it totally unplayable today? Not really, not many people know about it, but by adding -VGA with no spaces suffix to the exe file when launching the game, it is actually possible to force it to launch without the seemingly required accelerator. Anyway, Rebel Moon takes place in the middle of the 21st century, so, well, soon, and you play as a member of the Lunar Defense Force, in short, LDF, preparing for the war for the independence of all of Moon's 20 or so colonies from Earth. All because as the years passed, Earth treated lunar citizens less and less as equals and more as cheap disposable workforce, supplying the blue marble with precious resources. The fragile status quo had to be broken eventually, and the game starts just as it does. As you play Rebel Moon, you'll go through a series of interesting missions, each with its own objectives, so you'll be finding and destroying Air Force's infrastructures, you'll seek out and destroy enemy strongholds or even defend LDF locations against oncoming Earth offensive among others. There will be a lot of interesting things to do, other than just going from A to B killing everything in Rebel Moon is what I'm saying here. The armament is pretty fun and varied too, and you'll use all kinds of uniquely feeling weapons. from bog standard for the game laser pistols through chain-fed railguns all the way to the plasma rifles. Rebel Moon's graphics are pretty nice, but a little generic sci-fi feeling if you know what I mean, so while they're not out of place or disappointing per se, they also won't surprise you with anything along the way. So, is Rebel Moon any good? It's decent, but not something you'll remember like Duke 3D or Quake, and you should only ever seek it out if you're a hardcore fan of the genre or if you want to try out a game that seemingly no one had a chance to when it originally released. Obligatory Korean game time. Editor, cue some sick K-pop beats here in the background for me, please. Oh wait, I don't have an editor, and I know nothing about K-pop really, apart from maybe that there's Blackpink. I think I'll just carry on as is. Okay, let's see if I will butcher it or not. Reon-Ui Moheom, Jesus, is a side-scrolling adventure platformer in which you play as an anthropomorphic lion protagonist. The plot of the game revolves around contest among the animals aimed at picking the new king of the animal kingdom. And since you play as a lion, one thing you have to do is represent your species like a badass. Not only cats overall, but you know, it is expected from you to win. I mean, I expect you to win, and not only cause you're a lion, but also because you're you. Anyway, for the most part, the game which title I won't attempt to pronounce again plays like any other always scrolling platformer, so you go through series of mainly horizontally progressing level, defeating tons of cute, detailed and nicely animated enemies, and occasional bosses too. All of said bosses are naturally other competitors for the crown, but if I'm to be honest, the whole becoming the king of the animals thing is just a background story and doesn't really influence the gameplay in any meaningful way. As you complete the levels, you also collect coins, which then in turn can be used to purchase extra power-ups or weapons from merchants scattered around the levels. Interestingly enough, our lion has a bit of a Sonic in him, and other than the jump and attack, he also has a speed-up button, which held allows him to build up speed to considerable levels. It's not always necessary, but since the levels are timed, it may come in handy from time to time. Graphics and sounds, same as in most other Korean games of the time, are both pleasant to look at and listen to, and definitely feel like a lot of attention was given to the presentation to keep it attractive. It's worth pointing out that this impossible to pronounce game supposedly also released in English too, as Adventure of Leon no less. That said, I've never seen it in any other language than Korean, so if you're not a better researcher than myself, keep in mind that you'll experience it the same way. Dialogues and story snippets are rather one-sided, so it's not really an issue if you just want to enjoy it as a platformer and don't care much about the plot. Sea Legends is definitely one of the most interesting games in today's video. So, despite how it looks like, I'm not leaving it for the last because of that, but by a pure coincidence. I've also never played it, and it's the one I'm most keen about trying out if I ever get a chance. At its core, Sea Legends is a spiritual successor to Sid Meier's Pirates, but originating from Russia and featuring original and unique story of its own. It's a pirate life simulator taking place in the Caribbean. You play as Richard Grey, a young British captain of a noble heritage, who travels the seas aboard his majestic frigate Hephaestus. And acting as him, you can, same as in original classic, follow a rather linear but full of twists and unexpected turns fun story, or just forfeit it all and live out your best swashbuckling life. Pirating all ships within your reach, drowning your sorrows in sea of grog, polishing your wooden peg leg, and feed random parrots crackers. So, you'll be sailing the seas in your ship and eventually a whole fleet of ships if you play your cards right. You'll fight countless battles on the seas from a very immersive first-person perspective, I must add. Well, immersive for the time at least. Although if you think about it, even today you don't have that many games that would allow you to pick what kind of cannonballs to use, what part of the enemy's ships should you shoot the map to cause as much damage as possible, so perhaps even today it's in the top end for the immersivity. I mean, modern Sea of Thieves is fun and all, but I'm not sure if even in it you can choose as much. Anyway, you'll also hire crew, trade, pirate and plunder, and most of all, you'll have a lot of fun. There are naturally towns in the game in which you can do most of the above, and also save game in churches. Odd place to do so, but whatever. Upon its release, Sea Legends was a game that was largely ignored and overlooked by the gaming community, and it's difficult to say why, as it's a really cool and playable package. Or so I heard. But as the time went by, it slowly started gaining traction, popularity, and eventually grew to a rank of still obscure, but nonetheless cult classic. And as such, it stayed to this very day. So, what do you guys think of today's 10? Fun or not? Did you play any of them? Or maybe all are entirely new to you? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. Smash them if you have to, it helps more than you could ever know. Also, I would like to thank you and all my amazing Patreon and YouTube members for helping this channel keep going. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank all the wonderful folks who record and upload playthroughs, let's plays and other retro-centric videos here on YouTube, because they help to preserve the games that would have otherwise be long forgotten. So thank you.